So one of the things that Donald Trump has been doing on the campaign trail is he's been using rented out churches where he leads chants of cursing. And I wanted to get the take of a pastor and someone who used to be a Republican to hear, what do you think about this? Let me just show for you right now what Donald Trump's been doing. This is at a church, folks. Play this clip.
So they come up with something that's fake. Just like everything else they do, it's all fake. The impeachments are fake. The court cases are a disgrace to our country. Everything is fake. So they come up with this order. I won't say it because I don't like using the word bullshit in front of these beautiful children. So I won't say it. I will not say it. But this thing allows millions of people.
I want to call in Andrew Kessell. Andrew is a pastor, husband, as identified on your social media handle, husband to beautiful wife since 2020, lover of God and life itself. You also were a former Trump supporter and a former big Donald Trump supporter. We've got photos of you that you were displaying with you and Eric Trump for back in the day. I think we've got that. So you've got all of the receipts. You were there. You convinced your friends to vote for this guy back in 2016. So tell us, though, you're no longer a Trump supporter. You watch clips like that. What does that make you feel?
It makes me feel saddened more than anything. It's just sad to see like the house of God turned into a den of thieves, as is referenced in the Bible. I can remember the passage where Jesus curses the fig tree. So it looks like it's producing fruit, and then he gets nearer and says, it's not producing anything, and so he curses it. Then he approaches the temple, and he sees what appears to be a temple that's busy, probably filled to the brim with these people. And then you see stuff like that happening, and Donald Trump having the nerve to go up there and be like, I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to say that I'm not going to say it. Like, what is that? But it's sad to see the church become a den of thieves, per se.
Moral character, moral integrity, I've always said, is probably one of the biggest issues in this campaign, and the contrast cannot be clearer. I mean, again, you're a Republican. You voted for him in the past. The fact that you're out there now supporting Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Walz is probably something that if you went back in the past and told your 2016 self that you'd be out here on the MeidasTouch network talking about supporting a Democratic presidential ticket. But how important is the moral character factor for you? And how important do you think it should be for the American people and, frankly, other people who, whether they're in your church, other churches, or no religion at all, or other religions or whatever, who just people who care about moral character?
Yeah, for me, it's the biggest issue. You know, I get all these texts and emails from politicians that are like, what is the number one issue to you in this election? And it's funny because my number one issue is never a thing they ask about. But what it is it's to keep this man out of office. Look, I'm going to be honest, as a former giant Trump supporter who convinced all his friends to go vote for Donald Trump, this is scary to me because he is somebody he's like a drug. He's addicting. Like, you know, he talks about winning all the time. So you think you're winning. You think, wow, you know, things are going really great, and you feel like you're a part of it. It's very hard to get away from. But here's the thing. As a pastor, at the time, I was going to school to be a minister back in 2018. And I worked up in Alaska. And there was a gentleman there who had grown up in the church, but has since moved away from it. And he just wanted to ask me, because I was very vocal about my views and just how I was all out for Trump. And he says, I'd like to talk to you about how you got to where you are, because, you know, I grew up in church, and I'm just curious as to how you arrived at some of your ideals. And so I thought, man, I'm going to school this guy. Like, he's not going to believe, like the massive knowledge that I have. And man, did he blow me out of the water. I was just like, wow, what am I preaching to people when I scream so loudly that I support this man? What am I saying to people that I support every single thing that he does? That's not the message that I want to share. As a minister of the gospel, I want to share the good news of Jesus Christ. I'm not here to shout out my party platform, you know? So, and I'm like, I am misrepresenting who I am as a Christian by aligning myself with this person. And it was this big awakening that I was just like, wow. It shocked me because I guess I didn't realize how far down the road I had to go, how many things I had to look over to be able to overlook just how terrible he is.
We hear about groups forming right now like Evangelicals for Harris. And there's a concerted outreach by Vice President Kamala Harris to these areas and silos that were pretty much once fully MAGA. And we are seeing some of the reciprocation in people saying, yeah, you know what, this guy is flawed in a way that is the exact opposite of all of the teachings. Now, in your day to day, are you seeing Vice President Kamala Harris's message potentially breaking through, say, more than Democratic candidates in the past, say more than Biden in 2020 or Hillary Clinton in 2016 or anyone like that?
I've definitely seen a huge improvement. Now, I don't think it's massive, which is saddening again to me, but I have seen more people that I know that voted for Trump, just like me, or people that have been Republicans all their lives that have said, look, I don't like everything she does, but I'm probably going to vote for her. And I know some that are they're going to just write in a third party. But either way, those are votes that they can't stomach to vote for Trump anymore. And some of the people that have told me that are people that grew up that I would say are probably more conservative than me. And I was just shocked that they were in the same place I was. And I was like, this gives me some hope. So there is definitely a movement among evangelicals to move closer to Harris more than they would have any other time in the past.
I know a big event for you and lots of Americans was the January 6th insurrection itself, Donald Trump trying to overthrow a free and fair election. How big of an impact was that for you? And the fact that Donald Trump recently, he's always been saying it, but he continues to say right now as his closing message, January 6th was a day of love. It was an incredible day. My biggest crowd. People were there peacefully. This was an amazing time for America. That's Donald Trump's closing message. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I hope it's his last message that we hear from him for a while. You know, he said that he won't run again if he loses. And I'm like, he can easily say that because guess what? If he loses this year, he'll just claim it's stolen and he'll run again probably. But here's the thing. So I remember where I was that day. My wife and I were just enjoying a nice day. We were walking around the mall. It was a nice day. I don't remember if it was a weekend or something, but for whatever reason, I wasn't working that day. And all the people in the mall were just like stopped staring at their phones. And I'm like, is there something going on? And I look on my phone and I'm like, oh my goodness, you've got to be kidding me, right? So just how we got here, I told you that conversation I had with that gentleman in Alaska and how it changed me. So by the time 2020 rolled around, I was already kind of turned off from Trump, but I was at the point where I didn't really care who won the election in 2020. I was like, Biden wins, I'm fine. If Trump wins, I guess I'm fine. It's just whatever. But the minute January 6th happened, I was like, there's no way this man should ever be able to hold office, any office in this country ever again. You know, growing up as a Republican and especially as a Christian, we always learned, you know, maybe it's not a good thing to overthrow the government. You know, we were always taught Republicans aren't the ones that do that. And to see so many Republicans and evangelicals come around him, it's just, I think it's not sending the right message to a lost world that needs us. It's definitely sending a bad message.
I'll give you the final pitch out there to anyone who's undecided, to anyone who sees in themselves, Andrew, they identify with you, whether it's through their religion, whether it's through, just watching this and they're just go, but I'm just on the fence. Andrew, what's your closing message to them in the closing days before this election?
Well, as somebody who was a former Trump supporter, I understand the psyche. I understand why they're thinking that way. They see things like the economy. They see where things are higher priced, and they're worried that, hey, if the Democrats stay in power, does any of that change? But my point is, as somebody who was once where you may be, my question would be to have a conversation with you, because I don't think we have enough conversations anymore. But have a conversation with you, why are you still on the fence? What are some things that bother you? I may not be able to, change your mind on policy. I still think a lot like I did back when I was a Republican. I still care about a lot of those issues. But the thing is, at my first calling as a minister is to be a Christ follower and to reach others for him. And so because of that, I'm going to be very careful by aligning myself with someone who loves to hold up the Bible for photo ops, but doesn't like to crack it open. Or someone that likes to sell it instead of cracking it open. However you want to put it, someone who's out to make a name for himself. One of my big things when I was a Trump supporter is he always did that with Hillary, was the I'm with her, but he's with us. That was the main key, and I'd always felt like, he was with us. That's what we felt. But guess what? You see these Trump supporters getting left behind after being bussed in. They don't have a bus to take them back home. You have the January 6th people. Yeah, he's speaking up for him. He's saying it's a day of love. But guess what? Every time anything gets close to touching him legally or criminally, he's ready to throw them under the bus and distance himself from the whole thing. So the undying support you have for Donald Trump, maybe that's admirable, maybe it's not. I don't know. But the thing is, he will leave you in the dust every time to save his own butt. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
Andrew Kessell, thanks for spending the time with us. I think it's voices like yours that are going to be a major factor in this election. And, in a close election, reaching out to people who didn't previously vote certain ways. I mean, that's going to be the deciding factor, I think. And meanwhile, Donald Trump's out there going city to city, insulting the cities, insulting the people, creating deadly traffic jams in disaster zones. And so I think the contrast is clear for people. Thank you for joining us. Make sure everybody hit subscribe. We want to get to 4 million subscribers by the end of this month. Have a good one.
Real quick, Meta just changed their algorithm to suppress political content. Please follow our Instagram at MeidasTouch right now as we head towards 400,000 followers so you don't miss a beat.